In their cars, these families are passing from one world to another. This is the only checkpoint between the occupied territories and those controlled by Ukrainians. Most of the refugees on this day are coming from Kherson. When the Russians seized this large southern city in the first days of the invasion, its inhabitants protested. Reprisals were swift. Today, Kherson is one of the cities where the resistance has been most fierce. Roman has just crossed into Ukrainian territory. He's emaciated, exhausted, and exhilarated. As a soldier and member of the Ukrainian resistance, he was actively sought by Russian troops all around Kherson.
They entered the village with armored vehicles and searched everywhere. They were looking for weapons and they were looking for partisan fighters. Their snipers took up position inside the village and started to clean up. In my village, from what I understood, I was betrayed. Someone told the Russians, "There's a guy here who says he wants to defend his country." They went looking for me and for another man, another patriot, who was making Molotov cocktails. Then they arrived. People close to me had warned me, so I was able to run away. But the man who was making Molotov cocktails was beaten with a rifle butt to his head. He had brain damage.
Roman says he hid in the forest. He survived for 5 months with help from local villagers. The Russian army relentlessly hunts down partisan and resistance fighters. On the southern front, these secret forces coordinate with the Ukrainian army. This unit, composed of Ukrainians, Georgians, and foreign volunteers, frequently operates behind enemy lines.
It's a lot of danger to cross the line because there are a lot of mines. There are trenches, and you need to find a small place where you can sneak, crawl, go behind, hit them, and as you say, the most difficult part is to exfil, to go out from there, because now enemy knows that there is somewhere operating behind their lines.
The information shared by partisan forces, he says, is essential to these operations.
For example, in the frontline cities or villages that we're trying to liberate, there are people who are sending the information from them, and they are living there under our bombardment too. We are trying to hit the targets over there, and they're not going back. They're staying there, giving us information, and they're giving the very precise information about the amount of people, where they're living, what kind of weapons they have, movement. Yeah, a lot of information we're receiving from them, and I really hope after the war these people is going to be awarded something, and they're going to be known for the Ukrainian population and for the world too.
Ole has been working to organize resistance since the beginning of the war. He's the mayor of a group of villages on the Kherson front. 5 are still occupied.
We had people in each village who knew the routes and were reporting the movements they observed back to me. I had military experience in guiding strikes, so I gathered all the coordinates and sent them directly to the artillery.
Today he's visiting Svetlana. She's part of the resistance network set up by Ole. She never left her village, which lies right on the front line.
Yaroslav died, and his commander was shell-shocked. The young man who was here too, he was really a great person. I was just talking to him this morning, and now someone told me he's dead.
Ola and Svetlana have agreed to talk about their network because they believe that the Russians will not return to their village.
The boys climbed to the rooftops and watched. They watched the movements of the Russian columns and reported it back to the army, who then dropped bombs. Now the army has more information, they can see better on their own what's going on. Recently, some of the guys who were still active called me and told me they had spotted an important position. I immediately called the military to give them this information.
The partisans are also focused on eliminating people who have turned to the Russians. People who haven't only turned to them, we're talking about those who have obtained positions in the administration. In June, for example, the partisans neutralized the deputy of Novakakova prison. The traitors must never feel safe. They must always have to look over their shoulders, and they must expect someone to come and find them.
Не почували себе в безпеці і змушені були постійно оглядуватися і чекати, що їх за ними можуть прийти.
In the villages he administers, Oleg says that only 8 people have joined the Russians. He says he already has their names and that their treason will not go unpunished.